Hey everybody, Snowman here, and thanks for listening to this episode of Snowman in the Morning with Cole Johnson. Want to tell you about a little thing we like to call Monkey Knife Fight. Wait, what in the world is that, you may ask? Well, Monkey Knife Fight is a daily fantasy site where you can play your favorite games, support your favorite players, and make money at the same time. And right now, if you go to monkeyknifefight.com and use the code Snowman, you will get a 100% deposit match on up to $100 on your initial deposit. Go to monkeyknifefight.com and use the code Snowman for an up to 100% deposit on your first deposit of up to $100. Thanks, and tell them Snowman sent you. Cause we take this job so serious.
What in the all types of blue hell?
This is Snowman in the Morning with Cole Johnson.
It's Snowman in the Morning Plus with Scoop Miller joining me here on this edition of the Plus. Scoop, how are you, my friend? Great to have you.
Hey, doing fantastic, Snowman. Great to see you. How you been?
I've been good, man. Been good since my surgery in April. It's been a climb and a half to get back to doing this on a daily basis and working my way back toward the booth, but I'm doing great.
Well, that's awesome. Keep grinding and keep taking those positive steps. You'll get where you need to go.
Absolutely. All right. For the reason I brought you here, that's Big Ten football. It gets started this weekend. Can you believe it? College football is back this weekend, and man, I can't wait to get to watching and get to analyzing, especially having you with me each week.
I tell you what, I think you speak for a lot of people. The fact that we're excited that college football is back. It's just been a long time since that last bowl game finished out way back in January, but here we are, the season upon us, and what a fun season I think we all have in store.
Scoop Miller joining us here on Snowman in the Morning Plus, an auxiliary program of Snowman in the Morning. Man, you know the game I'm going to be keeping my eye on. That's Nebraska and my beloved Northwestern Wildcats. Give it to me straight. Do the Cats have a chance to compete?
You know, I think they do, and I think both these teams are going to be tremendously improved from a year ago. You know, in fact, for Nebraska, this is probably Coach Scott Frost's last stand there in Lincoln. You know, he's going to have to really come through with a breakthrough season there for the Huskers. But yet, you know, Illinois, I think they're a team that's a long shot, obviously, in the Big Ten West, but certainly a team I think that's going to make some great strides under Coach Bielema.
Absolutely. I like Illinois and what they're doing. And of course, you got longstanding coach Pat Fitzgerald. The only other coach that's been there that's been in the Big Ten longer is Kirk Ferentz at Iowa. You know, and NU has to go to Iowa this year. But it's Nebraska, it's Northwestern. You know, it's a game I'm going to keep my eye on. What does Pat Fitzgerald have to do to get his team back over the hump and back on top in the Big Ten West?
Well, you know, Pat Fitzgerald, you know, what a great job he's done there at Northwestern. You know, last year I know was disappointing, but he's a guy that somehow has an act for doing more with less. You know, they're always going to have the challenges there in Evanston as far as, you know, recruiting wise with their tough academic standards. So they have kind of an uphill battle, but, you know, it's been amazing what they've done at Northwestern under Pat Fitzgerald there. But I think for them, you know, last year they just were very inconsistent moving the football. They were plagued by turnovers. You know, those are areas I think they need to clean up. But, you know, if you know anything about, you know, Northwestern, you know, they tend to find ways to grind things out. And I think they'll kind of get back on track after a disappointing 3-9 season. I think they were just 1-8 in the Big Ten last year as well.
Mm-hmm. 2018, 2020 Big Ten West champions, and they clinched the 2018 Big Ten West with a win, oddly enough, at Kinnick Stadium in a grind-out 14-10 victory, a game I listened to from start to finish with my good buddy Dave Ennett, the longtime voice of the Northwestern Wildcats. But, you know, it's always fun to think of what NU can do, especially after coming off, as you said, a very disappointing 3-9 season. I think they have a couple of surprises up their sleeve.
Yeah, I do. I think they're going to be a surprise of the Big Ten. I also think Nebraska is going to be one of those teams that's going to make some huge strides. But again, what a way to start things out. It's going to be a big game when those two toe it up, and certainly a win for either program can do wonders as they both try to desperately improve from where they were a year ago. I think Nebraska was also 3-9 last year as well.
Yeah, they were 3-9 last year, and they own a win over Northwestern. That came in Lincoln. The last two times Nebraska has come to Evanston, they walked out with a loss. And this year, the game is in Ryan Field at Northwestern, and Northwestern is going to want to get off to a great start. Well, here's your chance. You got Nebraska in the house on the 27th.
Yeah, I love that, especially early season where really there's so much on the line, even though it's an early season ball game. I think both programs, both head coaches understand the importance of that game. They certainly have both their teams ready.
Yeah, they have to have both their teams ready. All right. The consensus has come out. The class of the Big Ten is Ohio State. They got Ohio State picked second in the national poll. How good will Ohio State be this year?
I think they're going to be loaded once again. It's just no way getting around it. I think they have the best talent in the Big Ten. Ryan Day, he walked into a great situation 4 years ago there in Columbus, but he's done his part to keep the Buckeyes near the top. Last year they stubbed their toe there against Michigan.
Mm-hmm.
I look for them to bounce back there. But they had a 12-2 season. A lot of coaches would take that in a hurry. But, think about Ohio State, their offense last year led the nation. I think they scored, nearly 46 points a ball game.
Mm-hmm.
Their defense had issues in those two losses, against Oregon early on, against Michigan. They gave up 77 points.
Yep.
In those two games. They also gave up 45 points in the Rose Bowl to Utah. But they did come from behind to pull that game out. But the Buckeyes also brought in Jim Knowles, who led Oklahoma State defense, who was one of the best in the nation. They brought him in as a defensive coordinator. So they're serious about taking that next step, getting back to the national title game. And I think they've got the talent that's going to give them a very strong possibility of just doing that.
The other thing about Ohio State, in those two losses against Oregon, against Michigan, they gave up a ton of rushing yards, and you just don't see that often. You just don't see that often with an Ohio State team, especially lately.
Yeah, you're exactly right. And you hit the nail on the head there, Snowman. The fact that Michigan just seemed to run the ball at will, and Oregon did the same thing. Those guys were not only moving the football, down the field each and every time, but they were also finishing off drives.
Mm-hmm.
And, that's just something that's kind of out of character for Ohio State to really kind of get their lunch handed to them, where they really have, they win their games in the trenches. Obviously, they have skilled players. When you have the offense and the guys that have some of those skill spots, C.J. Stroud, Travion Henderson, Jackson Smith. I mean, those guys get a lot of attention, but make no mistake about it, those guys are usually superior to trenches, and that's why their record has just been so incredible over the last several decades.
And that's the biggest key. I'll say it again, you rarely see Ohio State get their lunch handed to them on the ground. And what gave me a clue that Ohio State would have trouble stopping the run, they had a 3rd and 1 against Oregon with a chance to stop them and get the ball back and stay in the game. And then C.J. Verdell ripped off that 77-yard touchdown run. And it was kind of a theme for Ohio State in big games, giving up big yards either on the ground or through the air. But that run by C.J. Verdell kind of gave you a clue on where the deficiency was for Ohio State.
I think you're right. I think they got exposed several times. They had a few holes in that defense. A lot of teams don't really have the talent to expose that, but a few of them did. And and they know that. They know they're not going to win games giving up 40 points a game. They're going to have to get that number down to about in the teens somewhere if they want to compete for a national championship, which was always the goal there in Columbus.
It really is. Scoop Miller joining us talking Big Ten football. Let's look at Michigan. They beat Ohio State. They finally get to the college football playoff, first time since Jim Harbaugh's been at the helm. But I think there's still a dark cloud over Michigan because you brought Harbaugh in to win multiple titles and win multiple national championships. And in a sentence, last year notwithstanding, Harbaugh hasn't gotten it done.
You're exactly right. They did have a much needed win over Ohio State. The first win against the Buckeyes, I believe, since 2011. It's been
11 years.
Way too long.
Mm-hmm.
And, that maybe bought Coach Harbaugh some time, but they're going to have to come right back. They lost a lot of good personnel, especially on the defensive side of the ball,
they sure
to the NFL. So they've got some holes to fill, but you know how they love their football in Michigan, but they also have really had, things taken to them there behind the woodshed by Ohio State for a long time.
Yep.
So they have to prove that last year was not a fluke. They have to come back and find a way to not only compete for that Big Ten title, but get themselves in the national picture and give them credit. Last year they made it to the Final Four, but they absolutely just laid an egg there in their bowl game.
Mm-hmm.
So certainly that cannot sit well there for the Wolverines and Wolverine Nation.
And it shouldn't sit well for the Wolverines, but it's my fear that they'll take a step back this year because you think, okay, we've reached our crescendo. We got to the college football playoff. But again, I'll remind you of something, and Mike Valenti said this so brilliantly a few years ago. You brought Harbaugh in to win multiple division titles and multiple national titles. You get to the college football playoff finally. Of course, Michigan State beat them to it. You finally get to the college football playoff and you have Georgia waiting on you. And you talk about being taken to the woodshed in front of a national audience and a world audience for those who stream the game, on different apps. Boy, they did worse than lay an egg. The egg never came out before they got started.
You're right. And that, that 33, I think it was 33-8, whatever it was, that was not nearly as the game was not nearly as close as the score would indicate. They really just were dominated in every facet of that game. Were really, never in it. So, I think they had kind of that letdown. It was all about trying to beat Ohio State. They finally got it done. But as you mentioned, now, can they do it again? Are they going to be content? Okay, we finally stopped the streak. We beat Michigan. But Michigan always has a big target on their back, and the only thing I think might save them, Snowman, the fact that I think their schedule early in the season tends to favor them a little bit. They don't have a real tough schedule, I think, early, so that give them a chance to mold some new guys in to get some experience there because they've got some holes to fill, and they're going to have to find a way to get that defense playing. And their defense, let's face it, their defense is what won them a lot of games last year.
Absolutely.
But they certainly took a big hit to graduation and guys leaving for the NFL.
Let's take a look at the Iowa Hawkeyes. They're the consensus to win the Big Ten West. But I will state this again, and I will state this unequivocally as I've done the last few years. The biggest hurdle for Iowa to clear will see them in Kinnick Stadium, and that's the Northwestern Wildcats.
Yeah, and Kirk Ferentz in his 24 seasons, not many guys can do what he's done over the course of time there. And last year, Snowman, I think everybody knows their defense was great.
Yes,
their defense was awfully good, but their offense, I'll be frank, I thought their offense was terrible last year. What saved them? Their defense forced a lot of turnovers. That's what allowed the Hawkeyes to win 10 games last season. But I think they need to get a little bit more creative, get some imagination on offense if they want to try to repeat as West champions, because frankly, I think their offense is just too vanilla most of the time. They're going to have to really try to find a way to put some more points on the board, because you cannot just rely on holding teams to 10 points and trying to win games that way. At some point, you got to put some points on the board there. And their offense has really been anemic for a few years now.
And in key games, I'll mention Penn State, I'll mention Michigan, the Big Ten championship. Their offense has been nothing but anemic. I mean, you only get 3 points against Michigan, a team that they should have beaten in the Big Ten championship in Indianapolis. And then I'll go back a couple of years. They're up 20-0 on Northwestern. And then they let their foot off the gas pedal. They have a horrible habit under Kirk Ferentz, especially lately. I'm talking about the last 5-6 years, of getting ahead of teams and then letting their foot off the gas pedal.
Yeah, and I think a lot of people were that. A lot of people who really aren't in Coach Ferentz's corner, so to speak. The fact that they're going to say just because you've been there 24 years, that doesn't make you an Hall of Famer, But
exactly.
He has done some good things there. But last year, I think they got a couple of good running backs, Snowman, Gavin Williams, LaShawn Williams. I think those are good downhill running backs that should take some some pressure off that quarterback position. But they've just been very average there at quarterback, I think, for a long time. But they've had when you got to the running combination of Gavin Williams, LaShawn Williams, that's going to take some pressure off. They're not going to have a lot of negative plays. Those guys are downhill punishing runners. They're going to try to get, 4 or 5 yards of crack, which they're capable of doing.
And that offensive line needs to open up some holes. And I'll say it again, the hurdle they have to clear is going to be, I believe, the Northwestern Wildcats. And Northwestern, every time NU under either Randy Walker or Pat Fitzgerald has gone to Iowa City, they've won the last 4 in Iowa City. And they got to go to Iowa, and they're going to Iowa City this year. And I believe when that game happens, the Big Ten West will hang in the balance.
Yeah, it's hard to argue with that. And Northwestern, as you mentioned, they've played awfully well in Iowa City. So that's something they certainly have in their corner. They know they're capable of knocking the Hawkeyes off there in Iowa. And again, that's going to be monumental because let's face it, the Big Ten West is wide open.
It is.
I think that is so wide open. I've already talked about how I think Nebraska is going to be a team that might surprise some teams. Purdue, if they can learn how to play defense there in West Lafayette, they could be a dangerous team. And, of course, Minnesota's coming off a 9-win season under P.J. Fleck. So, again, you throw Wisconsin in there who, has won 9 games last year as well. So it's going to be a meat grinder, and winning some of those key games early could go a long way to determine who's going to be that West champion.
The early games give you confidence. The late games win you division and possibly Big Ten titles. So I'm, I much love for Purdue and Wisconsin and everyone else in the Big Ten West. But when you look at the schedule this year, I go back to the game that's going to take place at Kinnick Stadium in Iowa City. It could come down to Iowa and NU for the Big Ten West title.
Yeah, no doubt about it. Let's don't forget, we talk about Northwestern going 3-9 last year, but they have I think they've gone from either first or last the last 4 seasons. They can finish at the top of that West, as we all know. But again, I think Coach Fitzgerald is certainly one of the top coaches in the Big Ten. I think it's hard to argue that what he's been able to get accomplished there.
14th year head coach Pat Fitzgerald leads the Cats into the Big Ten West battle, and we'll see what happens throughout the course of the season. Scoop Miller will join me each week to cover the Big Ten and all of its happenings. Thank you, my friend. I love you. I'm glad to have you back on the show. Let's do this all season long.
Oh, I look forward to it, Snowman. Much love, and again, appreciate everything you do to promote the great sport of college football. Should be a fantastic season. Can't wait to get started.
Can't wait to get started either. Thank you, Scoop.
Hey, my pleasure.
You can text the show at any time at 812-274-5307. And thanks to Scoop Miller for joining us. Join us on Patreon as well, patreon.com/ snowman.com/SIT morning. That's Snowman in the Morning Plus, presented by Fanatics.
Hey everybody, Snowman here. I have a way for you to support our humble little morning show and support your favorite team and or player at the same time. All you have to do is go to officialsitmorn.com/fanatics. That's right, officialsitmorn.com/fanatics. With the NFL on the way, as well as Major League Baseball heading into its playoff stage, you can support your favorite player and or team, and you can also support this morning show, as Fanatics is an affiliate sponsor of Snowman in the Morning with Cole Johnson. Just head on over to officialsitmorn.com/fanatics and you can support your favorite team and or player. Fanatics, where sports fans shop. And when you go there, tell them Snowman sent you. Thanks. 'Cause we take this job so serious.
What in the all types of blue hell?
This is Snowman in the Morning with Cole Johnson.
This is Snowman in the Morning.